Hello and welcome back to God Really, my ongoing conversation with Chris Price, the lead pastor at the Calvary Baptist Church in Coquitlam, British Columbia. Now, Benjamin Franklin was known to have said that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, obviously, good old Ben never spent any time in the Garden of Eden, did he? Now, all kidding aside, the story of Adam and Eve, for a skeptic, is a bit of a stretch, especially when we're asked to take it literally. I mean, we can first of all argue over creationism and the theory of evolution. There's an argument there. But when it comes to a talking snake and the fact that a simple bite from a little red apple would lead us to an eternity of sin is a little bit perplexing. I mean, to simply be born a sinner is confusing. I mean, at my age, I've earned it, but to be born into it. Now, the interesting thing about the story of Adam and Eve, it's what I call a fundamental Christian story. If you don't believe it, you can't come in, because it is a fundamental building block of the belief system. So I asked Chris, really, why is the story of Adam and Eve important? And do you believe there really was an Adam and an Eve? Here's what Chris had to say. That's good.
I love the story. I think it's awesome, and I think it's profoundly insightful, and I think it anticipated most, if not all, of what our best psychologists have ever written, in the last 150 years. Well, I think there's elements to the narrative that are symbolic, but even symbolism has literal truth attached to it, right? Like when the Bible says, "My word is a lamp." It's not literally a lamp, but it does guide our path. So it expresses a literal truth. So if you have a tree of the knowledge of good and evil, well, I don't know what that tree is. I mean, it sounds to me like that's symbolic of a literal choice to obey God or not to obey God. I think the narrative in Genesis expresses profound truth about humanity. It's not till after the fall, not until after they break their relationship with God, that they realize they're naked. That to me, and then right away they cover themselves up. They start blaming each other. There's divisiveness that enters in, and this understanding that we're made to image and mirror God. But when they sin and they fall, it's like the mirror gets inverted, and then all of a sudden they're gazing at themselves. They realize they're naked. That's the birth of selfishness, and the result of that is then a fracture in their relationship with God and with others. And I think there's profound understanding of shame, of guilt, of a sense of alienation, a sense of shalom or peace and wholeness not being there. That's really expressed in that narrative, and that is literally true. And so I don't have a problem believing in Adam and Eve as literal historical people, even from an evolutionary perspective. I think there's a real sense where we're all Adam and Eve. I mean, we have the same choice they had every day of our lives, obey or not. And there's consequences for our sin. There's relational consequences between us and people, us and creation, us and God. And so I think those are the main points. And I think it's, the psychological insight there. I mean, I just think it's amazing. The text says they didn't know they were naked. That's really weird, because if I'm naked and I'm at, Best Buy, it's all I'm aware of. You have those dreams when you're in high school. You're naked in the cafeteria. You wake up in a cold sweat. They didn't know they were naked. And I'm like, why is that? And I wonder if the author's just saying, look, they had this relationship with God that was unbroken, and all this love and affirmation from God pouring into them. They weren't even thinking about their self and what they look like. And they're just free, like a freedom that we rarely experience. Then as soon as sin happens, that relationship's broken. They're looking for affirmation everywhere else, trying to fill it with sex, with profession, with appearance, with whatever, trying to fill the hole in our soul that was created that day in the garden.